All right, Johnny Storm, you wanted to talk about these mass shootings for our.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Yes. Yes. So, unfortunately, the deadliest school shooting in the United States happened just recently on May 24th, 2022. 18-year-old Salvador Ramos fatally shot and killed 19 students. Two teachers were wounded. Two teachers and wounded 17 other people at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Um, Earlier that day, he also shot his grandmother in the forehead at home and severely wounding her. Police officers waited over an hour on site of the school before they went into the classroom to engage Ramos, where they shot him as well. My question, what are your thoughts on how the shooting was handled?
Yeah, this is one of those ones where we've heard about it for the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, it happened. We were on break and we really couldn't talk about it. But yeah, so Robbie, what do you think about how it was handled? Are you muted?
Uh-oh, muted.
Sorry
Neo's.
about that. So, unfortunately, there were just so many errors that were made as from the very onset. When Chief Pete Arredondo went into the building, he didn't go in with a police radio or his school radio. So, communication was an issue at the onset, especially when you have something like this going on. Um, One of the key issues also is that the school police in that region do not have master keys for the schools. So they had to rely on the staff who were unable to provide them with a key to a door that was just integral to getting to the shooter. It's a door that's designed to stop shooters from getting in, but once he was in, he was essentially barricaded in behind a steel door that the police couldn't breach and couldn't get a key to for 77 minutes. Um, there were just so many things that went wrong during that timeline. It was just absolutely awful. Um, Even like when they got to calling for tactical gear and a sniper, when one of the other officers came in and told the chief, like, get out and vest up because he went in without his vest either. So part of the problem is Uvalde is it's a small place. I think it's a town of 15,000 people. So the police force isn't trained for it. They're not financed for it. They're not prepared for this type of
I
situation.
don't know, Rob. I'm not going. I'm not going. I hear you on that, but I think that sounds like excuses to me. I mean, if there were parents who had no weapons, who had
Oh,
no,
yeah.
who had
Yeah.
no
Yep.
guns, no body armor, ready to run in and save their own children. And you have these people with body armor weapons who can take him out, who ultimately did take him out, waiting. I'm not buying the fact that they are. This was just cowardly to me. That's how I feel.
And
Right.
just
And they were walking into the building, right? Like not running, but walking.
I just
So
I
that's
just feel like it was a
very
police force of cowards, is what I felt like.
yeah.
I mean, because I mean, I get training, and they have been trained apparently, supposedly, but whoever made these decisions, I mean, even if I were a police officer there, I can't imagine myself even listening to direct orders not to go in. I mean, if I'm hearing children being shot, I'm in. And I'm not listening to no direct orders. I'm going to save those kids if I can. And they were tasing. I heard that they were tasing parents trying to get in to save their own kids.
Wow. They would have had to take
That's what I'm thinking.
me down.
I mean, they
better
matter of
they
fact, there
saved
was
you because you can't send a civilian into an active shooter situation
that's fair.
because all you're doing, you're just going to rack up the casualties at that point. At least the police services were busting up windows and trying and extracting the students and the teachers that way because they couldn't get them out via the hallways.
I mean, I agree with the decisions to keep civilians out, but the civilians were making the right decisions because the police were not doing what they were supposed to do at the scene. I mean, it
Know
kind
what
of.
to do. Like Rob said, they weren't trained. They didn't know what to do. I think that even if you were compelled, like, and you had this passion in you Like all logic and all training goes
Right.
out the door for me
Mhm.
anyway. And I'm running
And
in
that's
there.
exactly it. When the chief reacted, he ran out of his office without vesting up, without grabbing his radios, because he knew that every second counted and he needed to get to those kids. He didn't put his mask on before going to help everybody else, which screwed everybody else.
So
Mm.
you're thinking he was he was just dumb in his quick thinking.
He acted he acted with everyone's best interests at heart, but neglected his training when there was no plan. It was just a reaction. And when you're in a position of leadership, you can't do that.
Yeah. What do you think, CR?
Tough.
I tend to think I hear you, Rob, and that makes sense. So I certainly want to validate um, that he was reacting, and lost all sense of his training. But I also believe that there was some cowardice by those who did not respond, right? Like react in the manner that they needed to react. And that's,
Yeah.
becomes a question of compassion. Um, where is the heart, right? That just kind of responds to want to help another.
Hmm.
How could they just stand there? How could they just remain in place and not react? So
Yeah.
it's hard. And personally, I kind of feel like the situation was handled and the decisions that was made was wrong. That's
No
just
question.
my blatant
Yeah.
stance on it was wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of the children were, I don't know, they were ethnic. I'll just use that term. They were ethnic. I'm curious, do you think that played a role in the response at all?
That's a tough. That's
No.
a that's a tough question because maybe them responding in that area, they probably in general don't respond to people of colors like police calls. I know in my neighborhood, there's gunshots and you're not hearing a police siren. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
it might be
it's a
that
tough
situation,
neighborhood.
but I don't intentionally. Intentionally, that was intentional on the kids with the officers and the kids. I don't think.
All right, real quick. Olivia says they just had a training for a specific issue in February, uh, and the parents reacted. Oh yeah, they reacted to tasing the parents, etc. Mike Wolf says they had pictures in the news of the department posing with shiny new expensive equipment. I would not be surprised if there is an inverse relationship between the amount of money spent on equipment and the willingness to rush into danger.
Mm,
Hmm,
mhm.
Mhm.
that's
So,
interesting.
in researching this, and we're running out of time, but in researching this, I googled I googled how to stop mass shootings in the U.S. Right, just curious, out of curiosity. So it took me to
Mhm.
this Prevention Institute, which says obvious things like gun control laws, establish a culture of gun safety, make it a public health crisis. But then I saw
Yes.
it said support healthy norms about masculinity. I was like,
Mm,
that seems a
Okay.
bit sexist, right? And then I googled how many mass shootings have been by men, right? And I was like,
All of them.
well, almost 98%. Like three mass shootings since 1984 were by women. So my question is, what is wrong with men? Oh, and I should also point out around 70% are white men. I'm
mm,
curious, considering the overwhelming, like I don't know. My brain started going in when I was reading the numbers. My brain started went off on a tangent, so I apologize. But I was considering like the overwhelming number of wars throughout history in Europe, or started by Europeans versus the rest of the world. Right? I'm wondering, is it in the genes?
Could
mm.
I
could
mean, you think about
could
dogs, right? You think about dogs. Dogs
I'll
have
kill
inherited
you. Stop
traits.
talking like that. I'll kill you.
You stupid. You
horrible.
stupid, Rob. But it's in the dream. I mean, you think about dogs like pit bulls and stuff. Pit bulls they have aggressive traits, and so sometimes those traits will show up and unexpectedly at times. And other breeds, they have been like it's been bred out of them, right? And they just killed their aggressive dog, so that gene is gone. I'm curious, European warriors were heroes and kings, and they were breeding like crazy. So I'm just curious: is aggressiveness in the genes?
Interesting. I can see that. I can see that something being hereditary in certain.
So, so in your
Because
research, Neo, did you also happen to check which parts of the world mass shootings took place?
Good question.
I did. I did check that, and it happened to be in the U.S.
Horrible.
Oh, to the 98th percentile, about the same, right?
It's probably
Horrible.
close. Probably pretty
yes,
close. It's probably like
yeah,
60. It's probably at least like 70, 80%, probably.
and 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 so yeah, the issue with gun violence really stems from colonial history and revolutionary roots, right? And so
Yep.
and just even thinking about the Second Amendment that we have. Um, so there definitely needs to be a handle on gun control and put in some gun control reforms. I would say that the issue of violence would reduce overall, and even suicide, like suicide
Mm,
rates would
Yes.
likely go down, if
Yeah.
there was more of a
less
handle on
access to
gun.
guns, right? I totally agree with that. Especially for the youth. I mean, I don't know. I hate the Second Amendment. That it's preventing us from making changes. I mean, I feel like we should be able to protect ourselves, and there's something we should be able to do. But having the Second Amendment there because of colonial times, like you said, during wartime, which where it's what it stems from, now we're just stuck with this stupid law that we can't even make common sense laws
Mm.
to counteract it. So we're just, I don't know. It's not even like just because it's in our actual literal constitution. Who put something stupid like that in the Constitution? The creation of the
It
of the
goes back to
country.
colonialism. When you're scared of that pesky
Colonists,
king of England,
colonists.
when
God.
that pesky king of England is going to come and take over everything. Here's your gun. Because we can't fund an army. We need a militia. Here's your gun.
Yeah.
It's the
That's
base document for the government, though. It could have been another extra law or something, but damn it.
Is it
or
possible to?
maybe an amendment? An amendment? Huh.
Which
It's been revised and amended before.
very
Why
true.
not
Why
again?
not amend it now? I totally
It's
agree.
hard. Could we
Totally agree.
rewrite the Constitution? Like, can that be a thing? I know not now, but is that possibility to redo it, start over, fresh laws,
You
fresh?
can amend parts of it, yeah, absolutely. You can get rid of some of the laws. You can get rid of the Second Amendment altogether. Enough people agree to it.
Hmm.
Just
Very
getting
interesting.
people to agree to it.
It's time. It's necessary. At this point,
It
when we
is.
say violent, death and violent, and people are more likely to be violent because of.
At the very least, we got to have some laws that say you've got to be well trained, you've got to have significant background checks and things like that to own a gun and
And
stuff.
how desensitized are you as a nation? Because Uvalde wasn't the only one that week. There's shootings
Yeah,
happening
multiple.
daily,
Yeah,
and you're not talking about them because it's a
It's too
daily
many to
occurrence.
talk
So
about.
it doesn't make the news anymore. It's not doesn't capture your attention, doesn't make you jump. What the Kardashians are doing does, but the fuck, really? Keeping up with
And
them,
not to throw
or
shade, but also the Real Housewives, the Real Housewives.
uh, Real Housewives of Dubai?
All right. Sorry, Ziara. All right. Is this
Lies,
truth, lies?
shenanigans.
And I don't even know what to call this. I'm just going with shenanigans because they can't come up with
I mean,
they,
it's
they can't make sense of
truth
it.
and
They
some
can't make sense of
ongoing
it.
gun
I'm going with
shenanigans in the U.S.
yeah. So Shara's going with shenanigans. It looks like and
Yeah.
Johnny's got some truth.